Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already should know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OurScoop.com, the authority on Temple athletics. We are on to episode 36 of our 11th season. We'll call it the Brian Westbrook episode. Can you think of any other famous 36s? We used to do this.
Jerome Bettis.
Oh, the boss, yeah, Jerome Bettis.
I'm terrible with jersey numbers. Really
and general music knowledge, too.
Yeah, and that wasn't part of it.
Oh, Shaq.
Shaq wore number 36.
With the Celtics. Oh, Marcus Smart.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Ryan, how'd the Celtics do yesterday?
I'm not latching on to the Sixers right now. People did not come to hear Sixers talk. I'm not buying it after one game. I mean, congratulations to VJ and Tyrese Maxey, but we're not getting into them. People have come here to hear quality Temple sports talk, portal news, and not Sixers talk. So
no, you're so right, John. I'm so sorry. We got off topic.
Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself? Who's with us? I am John DeCarlo, OurScoop.com's editor. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Mack. I'm one of the OurScoop staff writers here, and I'm joined here by
Colin Schofield, the guy who does not have the music knowledge of John and Ryan.
No, we know that. Everybody who listens to the Scoop knows that. So we do have a fun show ahead for you guys. Temple has its first verbal commitment, and I would imagine first signature now out of the transfer portal, and former Oregon State guard Dez White. He is committed. There are going to be more commits on the way. There might be another by the time this thing drops Thursday morning. We'll see. We're going to talk about the Temple women's basketball program's latest transfer portal edition, a significant one for them. I would say Colin and Ryan are going to talk about Taliyah Logwood, the HBCU All-American who was at Texas Southern and started off at Utah State. So a lot of portal stuff, some great mailbag questions to get to as well. So a lot of fun stuff ahead for you on this week's episode of The Scoop, be it the Marcus Smart or Jerome Bettis or Brian Westbrook.
Or Albert
episode.
Pujols briefly wore number 36 in his first ever spring training before switching.
That's a nice pull.
That's a good one.
I know you
I found that one. I don't have that off the top of my head. I
look
found
that
it on
up, but
Google,
still, it's good. It's good researcher. It's good researcher.
A little fun facts.
Yeah. The Scoop, as it always is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans with an S -law.com. All right, let's get to it, guys. We'll do a little bit of a reset here before we get into the Dez White commitment news and hear from Dez White himself. I had the chance to catch up with him earlier today to talk to him about why he's committing to Temple, why he chose Temple for what's going to be his final college season. So Temple announced that Gavin Griffiths is returning. We've been telling you here on The Scoop that was going to happen for the last few weeks. They also announced that Cam Wallace is also coming back. We've also been telling you about that on the pod. So if you guys are loyal listeners to The Scoop, if you're loyal OurScoop.com subscribers, that isn't news to you. What has been a little bit of a curveball, minor roster development, Muhammad Keita is entering the portal, so he's not returning. I'm not sure if that's going to be out there by the time, again, the pod drops on Thursday morning, but Muhammad Keita not coming back. So you'll have Gavin Griffiths and Cam Wallace returning, and then, of course, Derek Morton Rivera coming in out of Father Judge. So if you add in Dez White and then add in the other impending transfer that we're expecting soon, Adam Fisher and his staff are going to have 8 more roster spots to fill. So by now, you probably know that Aiden Tobiasen, since we last recorded, has since committed to Syracuse. I know he told me that he might be open to returning, but again, we weren't by any means thinking that he was going to return unless Temple was going to be able to match or come close to matching the offer they got from Syracuse and some of the other programs. So everyone I've talked to said it was a 7-figure revenue share deal. So kudos to Aiden for that. Babatunde Duradola is committed to Ball State. Zion Stanford will play at Towson next year, a cautionary tale that the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. So obviously he was not playing much at Villanova this year and then got injured, but I think Zion's thing is going to be to try to get a medical red shirt, try to play as hard as he can at Towson next year, and then get kind of get back up to the level he feels he's going to be at. But a bit of a turn for Zion Stanford, who was poised to probably have an even bigger breakout season at Temple before transferring to Villanova. So let's talk about Dez White, 3-year starter at Austin Peay, Missouri State, and then this past season at Oregon State, he averaged 9.7 points, 2.7 rebounds, and 2.1 assists per game. He missed 3 games with an arm injury this past season, but I think one of the most impressive things about him is that he started every game otherwise that he's played in his college career. So across those 3 seasons at Austin Peay, Missouri State, and then Oregon State, he has 1,002 career points across those 3 seasons. He's a career 36% three-point shooter. His three-point shooting percentage has gotten better in each season. So he originally signed out of high school. He did a post-grad year, went to high school in Missouri, did a post-grad year down in Atlanta, and then he signed with George Mason and then pivoted to Austin Peay when Kim English left to take the Providence job. And, of course, Kim English has had a bit of a weird career after that. Things didn't work out for him at Providence. Was going to take an assistant job at North Carolina, and then changed his mind after 2 or 3 days. Kim English was a name that was kind of initially mentioned in the coaching search before they hired Adam Fisher. I don't know if Temple actually ever formally interviewed him, but a little bit of history there. So back to Dez White. Hits a freshman program record of 63 three-pointers at Austin Peay, made the Atlantic Sun all-freshman team. Again, he's steadily improved as a three-point shooter in each of his last 3 college seasons. So before we react to it, I want to play a little bit of our interview from earlier today. This is part of my one-on-one conversation with Dez White. OwlScoop subscribers are going to get access to the full interview, but this gives you some insight into why Dez chose Temple. Transferring is not new to you, and you've been a good player, but what was it about the visit and the recruitment that made you choose Temple?
I would just say their consistency and just the effort that they have put in on recruiting me. From the beginning of me getting in the portal, they had been constant on just calling, checking in, seeing what I had going, and then just being straightforward with the opportunity they have for me, the position the program is in and where they want to take it, and then just evaluating my game. They did a deep dive into it, and when I was on my visit, a lot of my statistics and categories in my game were broken down to a T, and it just showed the time and the effort they put into that. I really appreciated it. And then just being out there with my mom, she loved the city, loved the coaching staff, the culture that they had built. I just took time while I was out there and was just praying with my mom, just for guidance on where I should go. And I felt like all the things were leading there. And so I feel like it would be a great fit, and the coach staff believed in me, and I believe in them. And I love the league, the American League. I kind of have had it circled since I've been in high school, a league I feel like I could thrive in. So I just feel like all the boxes were checked in the things I was looking for, and then I was checking the boxes what they were looking for. So I think it's a great fit.
Who else was in the mix for your recruitment? What other offers did you get once you hit the portal?
I had some other schools talking to me throughout the American League. I had some Big 12 schools talking to me, some Mountain West, some Pac-12 schools. It was kind of all over the place, just with different variables, different role changes. But yeah, I feel like Temple is the best fit overall for me. I never really got too caught up in going to the highest school or the biggest school. Always just wanted to go to a place where I feel like I would fit. Where I'll be able to showcase my skills and abilities and talents that God has blessed me with. So I've never been really one to just chase a name. So yeah, I feel like Temple just checked all my boxes for me.
Did you take any other visits, or was Temple your only visit and you committed?
Yeah, Temple was my only visit.
Okay.
Just going through this process before, I kind of knew what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like last year, I took more than one visit last year. And it was good just seeing all that's out there. But going in this year, I kind of knew what I was looking for, knew how to kind of navigate through the space since it hasn't been my first time. And so once I went there and seen that all the boxes checked, I didn't want to pass up on the opportunity that I felt would be a good fit. So, this is my only visit, and I feel like I made the right choice, right decision. So, it only took me one time on a visit this go around to get it done.
One of the things that I'm always fascinated by is when you're a player and you enter the portal, I would imagine life is pretty crazy for you. Like all these schools are reaching out. How did Temple break through? Like, how did you? Can you explain? Like, if somebody was listening to this, could you explain? Like, you hit the portal and you get all this interest. How did you land on Temple? Like, what made them kind of break through the other schools that wanted to recruit you?
Yeah, it was a lot of schools reaching out from the beginning. Life does get a little hectic when you enter the portal. But me just being in the space before, I kind of went in with like what I was looking for. Like I had the American League like kind of circled, not like just canceling everyone else out, but I knew that would be a league that I feel like would fit my game style, like a little faster paced league, get up and down. So when Temple had reached out, that had already sparked my interest. And then, like I said before, just their consistent calling, checking in, seeing what I had going. Coach Fisher getting on the call from the very beginning and just expressing his wants for me. And then Coach Bobby just every day just checking in with me. So they just show that they want me, and I feel like that's a big part of the recruiting. Everyone wants to go to a really good school, and that is great. Temple is a great university, but it's also about the coaching staff and what they have already laid down before you and what they want to continue to lay down with you. So I feel like them just showing their value in me really made me want to go there.
Who was the first person to reach out to you? Was it Adam Fisher? Was it Bobby Jordan? Like, who was the first person from Temple that you heard from?
Yeah, Bobby Jordan reached out to me first, and then Coach Fisher shortly after that, and then met the rest of the staff. Coach Huger, he was actually teammates with one of my assistants from Oregon State, so then I was able to connect with one of the assistants from Oregon State here and just get his input. And every time I called a reference or spoke to somebody about them, they had great things to say. But yeah, Coach Bobby reached out first, and then Coach Fisher shortly after, and then we have been in good talks throughout the whole process of me being in the portal.
What was the visit like? Like when you're on a visit, again, not the first time that you've done something like this. When you're on the visit, is there a moment where you kind of like maybe you talk to your mom or you look at your mom and say, okay, this is where I want to be? Was it a specific conversation or something you saw? Or when do you kind of know that it's the right fit?
I kind of just went into it with the open mindset because I'd never been out to Philadelphia before. So it was a change of scenery for me, but I went out with an open mind, and then really just like taking a deep look at like my mom and if she's comfortable around the staff, around the city, and just seeing the smile that she had most of the time. Great conversations with the staff. They were very, very outgoing, very respectful to my mom, and I'm a mama's boy. My baby is 6. And so my mom means the world to me. So just seeing her around the environment that I would potentially go to, and she was just comfortable and got along with the coaching staff, and they made her feel at home. Then it made me realize that if my mom's comfortable here, then I know that she would give me the blessing of going here. So really just when I knew that my mom enjoyed it and my mom told me she wanted me to be an Owl, then it kind of just put the cherry on top because all the other boxes were already checked for me.
I was going to ask you about her. What does she mean to you, Dez? Because I've read a couple of other stories, and you've brought her up. Can you explain why the relationship between the two of you is so special?
I mean, she's my world. I wake up, work out, do everything I do for her. She was a single mom at a young age. She raised all me and my siblings.
Did you say you're one of 6 kids, did you say?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm the baby of 5, really, but she ended up raising 6 of us.
Oh, wow.
So just showing the things that she went through from a young age to make things possible for us. I just go hard every day and want to accomplish the most I can in life with the great sport of basketball, just to be able to give her an easier life, because she didn't have it easy growing up taking care of us, but she always made a way. So I feel like I'm obligated to go out there and give it my best and put my family on my back to be able to make their life a little easier. So yeah, everything I do is for her. As long as she's good, I'm good. So yeah, that's my rock.
I think one of the things that's been really impressive about your career is that you've started everywhere you've gone, other than like the only games you've missed were due to that arm injury, right? So how did you expect to be as consistent as you've been? Each of the 3 schools, you've started everywhere, and that that, I don't know, it doesn't happen for everybody. What do you think has been behind that? How have you been able to do that?
I mean, first, I think I've just been blessed with, first off, health. Haven't really missed a lot of games due to injury, so I've been able to be available. I feel like the best skill is availability, and people don't realize how important health is. But then I'll also say just probably my upbringing, the way I was taught to play basketball from my brother at a young age, all the coaching that I've been around since high school to prep school down in Atlanta to being coached at Austin Peay by Coach Gibb to Coach Martin. I feel like they just coached me the right way and made me play basketball the right way that a lot of coaches appreciate, and just wanting to win, wanting to go out there, put my body on the line to be able to just do whatever to win. I've been a scorer basically my whole college career, but also carried different aspects of just winning, a great culture guy. And I feel like that stuff carries and translates to all levels of basketball, and it's been seen throughout my career just that I've been able to go all these many different places and start. And I think it just showcased that I want to be a team guy. I want to be a team leader. Teammates respect me. I respect them, and just want to go out there and compete with my brothers. So I feel like those are the reasons why I probably have started a lot of places I've been.
Guys, what do we think of this Dez White pickup? I think that we've talked about this before, and we say it half jokingly and half seriously. We're gonna pretend that we knew everything we needed to know about Dez White a couple weeks ago, and that we were watching every single college game and poring over film. But this is part of covering the portal. They get players from far and wide, from all sorts of different conferences, but a long way to go in terms of rebuilding the roster. They need a point guard. They need bigs. We are very well aware of that. This is early in the process. I think OwlScoop subscribers who will hear the whole interview will hear Dez White say that I didn't have the ball in my hands as much at Oregon State as I did in my previous two stops. So I think he can handle the ball a little bit. I don't think he is their point guard of the 2026-27 season, but a pretty good player nonetheless, who is a capable three-point shooter. I think that for all their faults as a staff, some of the February slides, they've been able to recruit guards and get guards improved. Even Gavin Griffiths, for as much as he hit that late season shooting slump, got better last year. What do you think is possible for Dez White? Again, I know it's a very, very incomplete picture, but you see the news. He announces, or actually news broke last night and on Tuesday night. But now that you've had some time to digest this, what do you think this addition at this juncture means for the Temple men's basketball program?
Obviously, it gives them another guard that can score, with something that they were really sorely lacking. It honestly, kind of like looking at it, reminds me a little bit of, obviously he doesn't handle the ball as much as him, but Jordan Mason coming in from Illinois Chicago, he has about almost close to the same amount of like points per game that he did when Mason came in. The only thing that was a little that lacked was the assists per game, but it kind of reminds me of something like that. The only difference also is Mason kind of had a bit of a higher shooting percentage. Reminds me of some addition like that, or like AJ Smith, someone that you can kind of come in, and even though AJ only played 8 games here, he was able to be a viable scorer off the bench where they were in a bind. You saw it when they were down in Florida where they were in a bind. They needed someone to score. He was able to do that for them. So I feel like that's why someone like that, we're like, okay, not gonna act like I know who starting lineup's gonna be, and
no, they don't have enough
like
players. Well, they have
like
just enough.
Yeah,
they have just enough at
but,
5, but they would have no bench. Yeah.
But I'm not gonna act like I know who they're gonna get in the portal from now until early November when the season starts. I'm not gonna act like I know that. I'm not gonna act like I know who the starting 5 is gonna be. But it kind of reminds me of that, for someone that is like, okay, he averaged 9 points per game at Oregon State, a team that finished 4th in the WCC. Granted, WCC was a little bit down last year, but they had 3 teams make the tournament. So it was a decent basketball, and playing teams like Gonzaga and St. Mary's. So a good basketball conference. You have a player like that can kind of come over. Maybe he can average maybe 11, 12 points per game over here. Something that you can plug in and just be a double-digit game scorer. Maybe not something that you're expecting to have like Darian Ford numbers when he was averaging near 18 points per game, but something that you can trust to give the ball and get you in a bind.
Yeah, he averaged 9.7 points per game. Before I get over to Colin here for a second, 9.7 points per game at Oregon State, 14 points per game last season at Missouri State. And one of the things he talked about in our interview is after that Missouri State season, he had visited Wake Forest. He had a fair amount of P4 offers coming out of the portal or entering the portal at that point. And then he averaged 7.9 points per game as a freshman at Austin Peay. So this past season, you mentioned some of the teams that they play in the West Coast Conference. So they beat San Francisco in the quarterfinal round of the West Coast Conference tournament. He had 18 points in that game. And then they ran into, obviously, a 12th-ranked Gonzaga team. They lost 65-56. Not one of Dez's better games of the season, just 2 of 9 from the floor. He missed all 6 of his threes, and Gonzaga really kind of made an effort to clamp down on him. 4 points in that game, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. But a guy that is a capable scorer. Colin, how do you see this addition? Again, knowing this is, of course, still a very incomplete roster picture.
Yeah, I mean, first, I think it's just, comforting to see one commitment go down in this transfer portal era. Like, I mean, people get anxious about, how the longer teams go without getting a commit. So just one down, I think, kind of comfortable. I'm very, very intrigued to see kind of how he fits into whatever roster they end up building because, I mean, like you said, John, he didn't have the ball in his hands a ton at Oregon State, and if that's kind of the role he plays again at Temple, he's more of an off-ball three-point shooter.
Definitely is.
I'm very interested to see how he performs in that role because I feel like that's a role we haven't really seen the last couple of years. A kind of pure off-ball three-point shooter where really the main thing he's doing is shooting the three, not really rely to bring the ball up, create his own shot, kind of like Darian and Zion and Jamal Massman Jr. from the last few years. If he can kind of like shoot 38% from three again, I think that would be a huge boost. I mean, obviously, no matter who else is playing next to him at the 1 or the 3, he's not really. I don't think he's big enough to truly play on the wing at 6'2", but I think a pretty good off-ball 2 that can shoot the 3. If they can put a pretty good point guard next to him, I think he can be a really, really good piece. Whether that's a 6-man shooting off the bench or that starting lineup at the 2.
Yeah, 207 for 573 from 3 in his career. So his freshman year at Austin Peay, 33.3% from 3, then 37.1% the following season, and 37.9% last season. So a guy that shot at a 36% clip. To me, this is kind of like what you hoped C.J. Hines was going to be, that type of player, that type of spark plug. So I think this is, again, we're not making predictions. The roster is incomplete, but all things considered, I think this is a really solid addition for them because of the fact that he has, again, another thing that we talked about, you'll be able to hear the whole interview if you're an OwlScoop subscriber. It sounds cliche, but he said, yeah, I mean, other than he missed 3 games with an arm injury, otherwise he has started every game of his college career and been available, and that's something that's big for him. So I think a solid start. We'll talk about this in the mailbag. I think there's going to be a next wave of players. When the portal closes, just so everyone's familiar, the portal window closed at 11:59 p.m. Tuesday night. So if you are not in the portal by then, you can't enter it. So we at least know now who has entered the portal. But there's no timetable right now on when guys have to make their decisions. But I think there is definitely, this has really become free agency. We'll probably mention this again in the mailbag, that there is almost kind of like a first wave. Some guys are getting the money they expected. Some guys are not getting programs to bite on the money they're asking for. So I do think that you're going to see things pick up. Again, by the time you listen to this on Wednesday morning, you might have a new player to talk about. But I think overall, a solid start. So again, as of now, on Wednesday evening, Temple's roster stands at Oregon State transfer Dez White, Gavin Griffiths coming back, Cam Wallace coming back, and Derek Morton Rivera coming in. And so if you count that, the transfer that we're expecting, that's going to be Gavin Griffiths, Cam Wallace, Derek Morton Rivera, Dez White. And again, I think I'd be mildly surprised if within the next 24 hours or so we're not going to have another verbal commitment to talk about. So again, still a very incomplete roster picture, but we're off and running here. And again, we'll talk more about the men's program in the mailbag. Let's talk about Taliyah Logwood, the HBCU All-American that Diane Richardson has picked up. So things have been a little busier on the portal front for Diane's team. So Taliyah Logwood, at Texas Southern this past season, comes in with 2 seasons of eligibility remaining. She was at Utah State as a freshman. Guys, what does she do for the roster and the program? I I'd be lying if I said I was poring over a Taliyah Logwood film prior to a couple of days ago, and that I would have seen this coming. I mean, as sarcastic as we're being about this, we'll tell you. I mean, like there are some portal additions that you can see coming, some that you hear about, some that make sense, but we're also going to be forthright and honest with you when we say, like, hey, you might hear of something before it happens, or you might try to connect the dots. But on the surface, again, for Diane's team, this looks like not just a quality addition for them, but maybe like a really solid addition for them. 5'10", 14.5 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, shot 44.3% from the field as a sophomore, started all 30 games, all SWAC first team. You mentioned, Colin, that she gets into foul trouble, so she's a pretty aggressive and physical player. As a freshman at Utah State, 9.7 points, 4.2 rebounds, and transferred over to Texas Southern. But third portal addition, what's your opinion of how this roster is starting to shape up?
I think Diane Richardson and her staff is putting together a really complete roster right now, and I especially like what Taliyah Logwood could bring to this team, especially with her size on the wings. I think when we talked about it throughout last year, they lacked that size and a score on the wings. And they had Savannah Curry out there. She's in the portal, and she just never really got that offense going. And I don't think she is the scorer that Taliyah Logwood is, bringing in 14.5 points per game from Texas Southern. Again, there's a little bit of foul trouble, but she still produced, even in a little bit of limited minutes, only 22 minutes per game. She put up 14.5 points. The three-point shooting also concerns me a little bit. Not the best three-point shooter that you could want out there, but I also look at when they brought in Kayla Turner 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now. She came in from Alabama A&M only shooting 26.6% from three, and has raised that to 34 and then 40.9% this last year. So that is something that I think that they will work with Logwood on a lot to bring her up. To, that I think this is a starter that comes in and starts on the wings, and I think she's going to play very well alongside Kayla Turner and Tristan Taylor as kind of like, again, kind of an off-ball scorer. They're not going to need her to handle the ball a lot, because you have two players that can do that. And then you add her with Shayla Smith, who they brought in last week from Penn State, another really, really good scorer. They have replenished the backcourt very, very well, in my opinion, with players who can go score. And they lost a handful of guards, but it was mostly reserve guards. So the two guards that they brought in, I'm a real fan of how they're going to complement Kayla Turner and Tristan Taylor. And then you retained a lot of that front court, namely Sanaya Craig, added Timmy Grice, who's 6'5" from Arizona State. And I think this roster is really, really shaping up strong so far.
They have players to add, still an incomplete roster picture. I feel like I've said that 500 times already. But this is kind of on topic, sort of off topic. But what do you think? And we'll ask, we'll catch up with Diane Richardson at some point and get an interview with her to sum up the season and maybe sum up this new roster that she has over the next few weeks. What do you think Diane Richardson is thinking after last season being the disappointment that it was? I know that most coaches are optimistic at the beginning of the year. She had reason to be optimistic. They looked good within those first few weeks. Then things went downhill. They were wildly inconsistent. As she is constructing this new roster, beyond the obvious stuff like, I need people who can score, I need people who can rebound, what do you think Diane is really prioritizing and focusing on to where she can say, I don't want last year to happen again?
Feels like the size that she's brought in, like especially with, Timmy Grice is 6'5", like that is going to be a major advantage we haven't seen much from her from Arizona State.
Yeah, not a lot of proven production, but
not a lot.
That may not mean anything.
Interesting
in terms
to
of,
me, and I wasn't on last week, but a point I want to bring up last week was their first two additions were both P5 additions that didn't get a lot of playing time, which she didn't do it all last year. Last year was all more proven mid-major players who could have taken the leap, and you didn't really see any do that other than Sanaya Craig. And I think the approach of bringing in two high major players who, one is very proven in Shayla Smith, who is the city's all-time leading scorer, and then Timmy Grice had a very successful high school career as well. Bringing in those players to a lower level of college basketball, but seeing if they can re-unlock that high school aspect of their game and, maybe surge up in their production, I think is a better bet than maybe banking on like a Brianna Mead from Long Island or a Chloe Miller who redshirted at ECU to be productive. I think there's a better chance of those high major players coming down a level and producing, and that's what I think she's kind of looking at. Now, that's not the same for Taliyah Logwood. That's where it's a little bit different, but she's She was proven at Texas Southern, 14.5 points per game. That worked out with Kayla Turner a couple years ago when she was the SWAC Freshman of the Year. But I'm intrigued with the 2 high major additions, especially because we had Diane Richardson really do that all last year, even the year before. She didn't do it. It was Amaya Oliver, but she had spent a year at USC before 2 years at LMU. So a bit of a change in like the philosophy of bringing in players, I think, intrigues me, and I think all 3 transfers will be productive, but especially I think Timmy Grice and Shayla Smith can unlock like a lot of potential in this team.
I feel like we've been saying this every week. We are obviously going to have plenty more content for you on the portal front for both teams in the coming weeks. Spring football season is over, but if you guys want to put some football mailbag questions out there on the agenda, happy to talk more football in the future, but I'd be shocked if we don't have at least 1 or 2 more players to talk about in next week's episode. But otherwise, we're going to jump into the mailbag here, where we're going to talk about some of these familiar themes here in terms of the roster construction and the portal as well. As we say each week, before we jump into the mailbag, our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers is the best injury lawyer you could hope to find. So should you find yourself in a situation where you need his services, he's got you covered. But Mike each week offers a tip to help you avoid being in a situation where you might need his services. So we're going to play this weekly tip for you here from Mike. In this tip, he's talking about getting legal documents together before your trip. So again, Mike is always thinking of new stuff each week.
I respect it.
I respect it too. Yeah. Again, if you have met Mike in Lock K, he's a dedicated Temple fan, great human being. So happy to have his support of the pod. So here's Mike's tip for the week, and then we will get into the mailbag where we have several questions to answer here.
Are you planning on taking a trip this spring? Maybe going out of the country? It is a great time to do so, but keep in mind you should make sure you have your legal documents prepared before you do. One of the most important is a power of attorney, because if you face a medical emergency while you're away, who's going to take care of your financial affairs? Who's going to make medical decisions if you're not able to? And that's why it's very important that all of us as adults have a power of attorney so that somebody, not you, can take care of your affairs in the event that you're incapacitated. Look, no one likes to think about something like that, but if you take the steps, prepare yourself, and get it done now, your family will appreciate it even more in the event of an emergency.
First mailbag question here comes from the screen name Fig1. Fig1's question: is Fish going to get any help from anyone other than himself regarding NIL and rev share? Is there a Dawn Staley out there for the men's team? Great question, Fig1. I think that you might be referring to the fact, and I've checked this out, and it's true. One of our subscribers on our message board posted that Adam Fisher has donated to Temple's revenue share fund. I checked that out with a few people, and that is true. So he's contributing some of his own money to Temple's rev share budget. So numbers are hard to come by. Arthur Johnson hasn't talked about this recently. Jeff Nyberg reported in the Inquirer last week that Temple is near the bottom of the American Conference in terms of revenue share spending. I wouldn't have any reason to not trust Jeff's reporting. So is there a Dawn Staley out there for the men's team? Fig1 is referring to the fact that, tip of the cap to Dawn Staley here, she helped Diane Richardson raise some money. So I don't know if there's a Dawn Staley out there for the men's team, Fig1. I know that they are, you hear things here and there that are dependable and reliable. Of course, they're trying to continue to fundraise. Of course, they're trying to court some donors that could contribute significant money. I've been told that they will have more to work with this year, but I don't know that it's going to be in the neighborhood of like the $5 million that Charlotte's working with. So I don't know that there's a Dawn Staley out there for the men's team right now, but today is Wednesday, April 22nd. Who knows what next week will bring, but still some work for this program to be done there in terms of the fundraising aspect. And that's going to be the kind of central theme of the mailbag questions here. The next set of questions come from Temple Owls alum 1620, who's becoming one of our loyal posters and listeners. Two questions here, and I'll read them both, and then we'll answer this. You had referenced in an earlier post that basketball continues to have a budget toward the bottom of the league. Meanwhile, just in the past few years, the university announced a $55 million donation for the College of Public Health and a, quote, historic gift to start an honors college. That was recent. That was, I believe, last week. So two questions here from Temple Owls 1620. in your views, why can't John Fry and Arthur Johnson raise any serious money for athletics, given they have some type of fundraising approach that has yielded returns? Since NIL went in-house, they have only announced one, quote, substantial donation to football. Is it a priority thing, lack of awareness, etc.? The second question from Temple House 1620, Temple House alum 1620. After basketball's performance last season, both on the court and revenue-based, 10% Liacouras Center attendance, etc., is it concerning that the administration isn't providing enough rev share to compete at the top of the American, assuming they can't fundraise at a meaningful level? Is the strategy centered on KC and football driving more revenue to then have a larger pool to be able to allocate more to basketball? Part two is a great question. I mean, I should note that the university is shifting away from an RCM responsibility centered management model. That's what RCM stands for, and to a different budget model at Temple. Again, without looking at Temple's budget, I know this is a bland answer here. I don't know if they're going to be using the approach of, as long as football can sustain itself more, we can shorten up a line item there and dedicate more money to basketball. I don't know for sure. I'll say this. Here are my notes on this. I mean, and you've implied some of this, obviously, in your question. John Fry helped Temple get the Sidney and Caroline Kimmel gift for the new building for Klein College and the Center for the Performing and Cinematic Arts. That was a $27.5 million gift, and the largest in Temple's history at the time. Then you mentioned the $55 million gift for the College of Public Health and the recent Honors College gift. So, and I don't think you're disputing this. I would say that John Fry is a very good fundraiser, a very well-connected fundraiser. And I'm not just saying that because I work at Temple, work in Klein College as the student media director, the managing director of our Claire Smith Sports Media Center. But the proof is there. I mean, John Fry has moved the needle in a big, big way with fundraising, and I think he'll continue to do so. As to why athletics hasn't been more successful, that's a question for Arthur Johnson, and I'm not saying that to be sarcastic, just trying to be fair. I understand that they had an event over the weekend for donors for basketball. I wasn't there, of course, wouldn't have expected to be there, but I think Arthur and his staff have obviously been well aware of where the landscape of college athletics has shifted and landed. The big schools and the small schools have been challenged, so I know it's not easy. We talked about the white paper that Louisville put out, so I'm not saying that the current model doesn't have its flaws and that there aren't bigger programs that are hemorrhaging money, but as to why they've been reported to be near the bottom of the league in terms of revenue share, that's a question for Arthur to answer. Next question here comes from the screen name Coach K. The addition of Dez White was a pleasant surprise and hopefully the beginning of something positive. With the portal now closed and thousands of players there, what direction do you believe Temple will go in? Are there any players that you see moving forward that look to you as potential Owls? Finally, are there any other incoming freshmen that still might be available or not yet committed to a university? It's a crazy time, and I realize you don't have a crystal ball, but you do have access to more information and respect your thoughts and opinions. Well, thank you, Coach K. I appreciate that. Thanks in advance for your information, opinions, and all your thoughts. Have a great day. Coach K's questions, that was really nice. So polite.
That was so sweet.
Very, yeah. Maybe this is Mike Krzyzewski actually just having some time in retirement saying, you know, I'm going to lock in on this Temple podcast. So, no, it's definitely not Mike Krzyzewski. But never very sweet. No, good question. Appreciate the kind words. So let's get into some of these questions here. With the portal now closed and thousands of players there, what direction do you believe Temple will go in? This kind of goes to another mailbag question that we have here from just an outstanding new subscriber, a new screen name. I don't want to spoil it just yet, but what direction do you believe Temple will go in? It kind of goes to this identity question that we're getting later. I don't think that the direction is going to be all that different. I do think that Adam still wants to push the pace, shoot some threes. He's acknowledged that they need to defend better, but I think he also knows that they need to have more depth. I mean, last year, the results were what they were. They folded in February, but they did not have C.J. Hines. They did not have A.J. Smith due to the shoulder injury. Look, I mean, Temple has played guards 35-plus minutes per game before. That is not a new thing. Will Cummings played a lot. Khalif Wyatt played a lot. Other guards have played a lot in America. But I think that they, in terms of what direction you believe they want to go in, they still need a point guard. They want to get a quality big. As Kyle said, they really need to re-recruit a starter and a backup at every position. They know that they need better front court players. Jemai felt things did not work out there. He played a little bit better at the end of the season, but he's got injuries. He's got a shoulder thing. He's got a knee thing. So other programs in the American have proved that they can find you when you're finding Giovanni Majoro, Antoine Bonk. They need a guy like that, a big that can move the needle, that can pass out of double teams. So I think that in terms of the direction they're going to go in, they need a point guard. I think they added, like I said, in Dez White, kind of like I think they're hoping that he's going to be what C.J. Hines was supposed to be. Bringing back Gavin, confidence is an issue there, but I think it was a win to keep him. He can shoot. He doesn't have a broken shot. I think confidence is really, really the key for him. He can block shots. So I think they're heading in the direction of saying we have to be better in the front court. I don't think you're going to see a complete shift in offensive identity, but how do you guys feel about that in terms of the direction that they're heading in? So many spots to fill, but are you guys at all of the belief that like they're trying to build a different roster, or do you think it's like, no, we want to have the same approach, we just need the players to do it?
I'm under the belief that they're just kind of like not trying to do the same thing, but like the offense and the scheme that Adam Fisher wants to run works.
Yeah.
It has worked really well. 2 years ago when they had one of the highest scoring offenses in the country, granted we talked about how bad the defense was, but then they kind of switched a little bit. We're still trying to keep the same thing when they got a true point guard in Jordan Mason. Even though they were towards the bottom in threes attempted, they were top 5 in the conference in 3-point percentage. They were able to knock down threes, and they were able to fix their defense up. I think they're going to kind of go into that same mindset, do the same thing. I think we're going to see the same thing of like players that they're going to try to bring in. Most of the time it's people from these lower schools that were looking for a step up. There isn't many times where we saw it 2 years ago when they brought in Jameel Brown, but that was also because like a player that was at a P5 but so happened to drop down. But that's also because Jameel didn't really play that much at Penn State, also has a connection to Adam Fisher and is a Philadelphia guy. Even Linger the third, though the A10 is the A10, came in. He was
A10 had more bids than the American did this year, so yeah.
And St. Joe's beat Temple the year before.
Yep.
So he came in, but that's also because his dad was on the staff and one of the best players in Temple history. So there isn't many times where they're going to be bringing people from bigger schools to kind of drop down. They're going to be looking at people to play up. We saw that in the Darian Ford. We saw it in Jordan Mason. So I think we're still going to be seeing like the same kind of like type of players that's just still going to be bringing in. Obviously, I forgot Gavin Griffiths, same thing, but Fish had a connection with Gavin when he was at Penn State as well. So I think we're still going to be seeing that same type of thing there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Ryan said. I don't have any reason to believe that they're going to move in like a drastically different way with the portal. And I think a lot of it is kind of like where your chips fall and like especially who returns and, having to build everything out again. I think you make a little bit of adjustment here and there, and like a more established front court I think would be extremely beneficial because I feel like the last 3 years you haven't really seen that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like I agree with everything Ryan said. I kind of going for those lower major guys to bump up that were productive at their schools before, while then, hopefully getting a more established big man or two, and then, kind of building out from there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know. Again, we are not literally seeing revenue share contracts. I've talked to enough people to know that, again, say what you will about how Gavin Griffiths struggled with consistency, really struggled from three down the stretch. But we've seen that when he's on, he's on. I think really, again, confidence is an issue there. It was still, I think, a victory for them to bring him back. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say he might have passed up more financially lucrative offers. I'm not saying he was getting 7-figure offers or anything like that, but to bring him back as a win, they're not paying 7 figures to bring in Derek Morton Rivera. I think if you're talking about an approach, I think, not that Adam Fisher said this to me, but if they can stay within like a sort of target budget to say, we feel good about our guards, we feel good enough about our wings, we want to have enough money to throw, again, not 7-figure money. They're not going to be competing with the Michigans and UConns of the world for bigs, those, and even Villanova. But I think that they would like to be able to say, can we get a big that is really going to move the needle for us? And not Mohamed Keita, not a project. Again, the cream of the crop bigs are out of their price range. But to your point, Colin, again, like just that the front court play has to get better. So I think that might fit into their approach there if we're talking about an approach. As to Coach K's question about are there any other incoming freshmen that still might be available, I doubt it. You never know. They could take a flyer on a guy. Again, in 2026, there are always players who maybe get left out and you think, hey, how did this guy end up at a D2 school? Kind of giving a dead giveaway here, but I think the next verbal that they're going to get you might say, how did this guy end up at that level? So there could be a late flyer that they take. I would think that would probably be more on a big than a guard, but otherwise I think it's going to be portal heavy. Again, this is the guy, we're not breaking any news here. This is a coach in Adam Fisher and a staff that needs to win to keep their jobs, and they're not going to bring in somebody. Again, I think they feel really good about a guy like Derek Morton Rivera, a proven winner, one of the top players in the city, got that Father Judge program to a level it has not been in since the 90s, but I don't think you're really going to see a freshman that comes in, and if they do, I think it would be a late ad, but you're not going to get a high school senior that's really, really going to move the needle unless there's some sort of weird set of extenuating circumstances. So a Twitter DM question that I got: did Temple ever recruit Isaiah Pasha in the portal after he left Virginia Tech? I saw that he committed to Duquesne, and you guys mentioned on last week's show that he might be a possibility. We did bring him up as a possibility only because Temple had recruited him fairly heavily before they kind of shifted to Aiden Tobias, and I've checked around on this. Good question, and shows that you're listening to the show, so appreciate that. They did not recruit Isaiah Pasha. He ended up at Duquesne. It's a name that might have made sense. You never know if there are some conversations that happened there, but Temple did not offer him out of the portal. Isaiah Pasha did not visit Temple out of the portal, so he ended up at Duquesne. So, but good question, since we dropped his name as a possibility, but went back and double-checked this a few times, and so there was never anything significant to that. Last mailbag question here, and we'll do another check of Twitter to see if we're missing anything. I don't believe we are. I think I asked you guys before we started recording if this was a pop culture reference that I was missing, and you said no, but the screen name here is Big Dog Mr. Cheddar, which is just fantastic. Thank you for subscribing. BDMC, we'll call him, but Big Dog Mr. Cheddar, what a screen name. That's just fantastic. That brings a smile to my face. Do you think, and this is the question from Big Dog Mr. Cheddar, do you think you recruit to a team identity in this current landscape? This is when we were talking earlier about this tying to the other question. What is the identity of Temple basketball under Adam Fisher? I think fans ask the identity question a lot when it's in football. What's this offense's identity? What's the Eagles' offensive identity? Are they a running team? Are they going to run to it to establish the pass? All this stuff. But I respect the question, but I think you can recruit to a team identity for your conference. You know, I think for Temple, they know, Adam Fisher has said, they are not going to get in most likely as an at-large. Until further notice, this is a one-bid league, which is a shame for the American because I know that's not what they want. So I think you recruit to an identity that's going to help you win in your conference. But I think the identity that Adam would say is, we want to play fast. We want our guards to play free, but of course we don't want them to turn the ball over. We want to be able to shoot threes. We want to be able to push the pace, but at the other end of the floor, we want to make it hard for you to score. But I think that goes back to they have to get significantly better in the paint. And that just wasn't the case, you know, as we've said a few times before. Gavin Griffiths ended up being their best shot blocker, not Jemai Felt. So I get why they recruited Jemai Felt. They were hoping that, hey, the connection was there with Michael Huger, but they knew they had the injury concerns. He just couldn't stay healthy enough. But I think that identity remains the same. Push the pace, shoot some threes, be able to score, be able to have some decent guard depth. So, again, you're not burning guys out. But I think that identity is something that they're going to use to try to win in their conference because that is going to ultimately be their ticket to getting to the NCAA tournament. But I want to tip this over to you guys because I feel like you deserve the opportunity to answer a question from the one and only Big Dog Mr. Cheddar, which I mean, you can't help but smile and laugh when you see that screen.
That's the
added
best
a lot
name
of
I've ever
levity to the
seen.
pod.
Yep.
Is that the best Al Scoop screen name you've seen?
Oh, there was this might be Twitter. But there's the is it Alec Boehm's burner? I think has
that's
left
a
a
good
few
one.
mailbags.
That's a
That might be
good one.
Twitter though. I think.
Alec Boehm, yeah, that is Twitter.
Yeah,
Alec
yeah.
Boehm's burner account.
I've seen that one. I think
Probably
that's
having
more.
several conniptions right now based on the baseball, the just the dreadfully awful garbage baseball that Alec
Maybe
Boehm
that's
is
why
playing.
there's no mailbag questions from Alec Boehm's burner. It's focusing
Yeah,
how to
he's
not
got his
hit
own- yeah.
128.
Yeah, yeah. What would you guys like to say to Big Dog Mr. Cheddar here in terms of their question?
I mean, I agree with you said about the identity. Like, I don't think that changes, and I think you always enter. I feel like coaches enter with like a plan of how they'd like to play when they start recruiting from the transfer portal, but that can change so fast and change if you miss out on one player that you might have thought you were going to get and ended up not coming on a visit. Then that kind of changes how you might recruit. I think you try to recruit to a team identity, but I think it is more so how you compete in the conference is how you build that identity, because the American, you said it, as far as we know, moving forward will be a one bid league. They're not going to get more than one bid. We see that with how they changed their conference tournament schedule, in my opinion.
The triple buys.
Triple buys,
Yep.
double buys, top two teams going all the way to the semis. But I think you can still recruit to a team identity of how you want to play. That is also, I think, hinged in a lot of retention.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, Temple's on a position where they are retaining players year in and year out, like kind of like Florida and UConn and Michigan State typically do. And I think if there was higher retention numbers, we would see more of a team identity year in and year out from recruitment. But because they kind of have to, they've entered the last 2 or 3 off seasons needing to add 8, 9, 10 players, you don't really see what that identity might be until the middle of May when you have a fully built out roster, and that's kind of when you start to maybe recognize what this identity might be. But I don't see a reason why Adam Fisher and staff don't enter with like kind of an identity in mind, and I don't think that's going to change with this transfer portal class, but it's going to change based on how recruiting goes, how visits go, if players flip or change their minds last second and end up trying to go somewhere else.
We saw the same thing last year. Bringing 10 guys onto the team, and you're not really sure what you're going to be able to get. And even then, even though you're watching them play in May, June, July for some practice, you don't really know what this team really has sometimes until you get into that first game of the year, until you're playing like live ball against an actual other team. And it's kind of hard to say it because then players have to be able to mesh together. They have to be able to gel how they're going to be able to go. And all that really does is just build going into conference play when they really have that full like just chemistry with each other, and that just goes into how they're going to play together once they get into conference play, because the American is such a big league.
Dez White, one of the things that we talked about, again, you can listen to the entire interview on the site this week. I said to him, I mean, you're a pro at this now. It's going to be your 4th school in as many years, but that is by far not an uncommon thing. Like, how do you do it? You know, how do you get teams to how do you start bringing all the cliches? How do you get closer off the court? How do you gel? How do you get everybody to buy in? He's like, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said, I mean, I'm going to see myself as leader on this team, even though we don't know what that team is yet, but there has to be something to that. But I think, again, a lot of players know that now. And you're right, Colin, you made a good point. Other than the blue bloods of like UConn, Michigan, the teams like, tip of the cap to St. Louis and the Atlantic 10, retaining most of their roster. Like, you can set a culture. Any coach has to have an identity and a culture, but I totally get it. I've said this before. I'm never going to gaslight a fan who says, I miss the days of being able to see a guy come in and develop, and he makes that jump from freshman year to sophomore year and sophomore to junior year. So that's why I said it's even a small win for them to retain a guy like Cam Wallace and retain a guy like Gavin Griffiths. And then you bring in one of the better players in the city, so that gives you a small foundation to work with. But that identity is going to become more apparent once you start getting a better vibe for these guys in May or June. You start to see them hang out, talk about how they want to play. A lot of teams are going to say, we want to push the pace. But, I think Jordan Mason was capable of pushing the pace, but he's a little bit more of a methodical point guard. So I think we'll even know, once we know who their point guard is and their backup point, then we might be able to tell you, okay, this is a team that really might push the pace. So will they recruit longer guards who can get in passing lanes? We'll see, But a great question. It's just we have a very incomplete picture at this point. So, guys, when does the Maxey's Challenge stop?
Last day of April.
Last day of April.
You guys sound so sad.
What are we, like 8 days away? 8 days away?
You guys being good kids, being safe, smart, responsible.
We're responsible.
Yes.
We're responsible.
Okay. It is. I think it's getting to a point where it's definitely a little difficult.
Did you say I'm so bloated?
So bloated.
So bloated. Because you think about the challenge, like, you technically don't have to buy anything, but we still go in and buy something every time. Because I think that's the true part of the challenge.
Just bottles of water every time, right? Yeah.
No, it's just bottles of water every time. But
yeah,
you think you're going in there and only getting 1 bottle of water, and next thing you know, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's food. Yeah. And like I literally, you think you walk in, you think like, okay, I'll go Monday. Monday I walked in, like kind of after our print production or after our section finished up for print production, like I'm just gonna get 1 bottle of water and like get out. I stayed and got 3 bottles of water and chicken bites, and it's made me bloated. But it's also fun because you're hanging out with your friends and you're enjoying yourself, and it's the last time we're gonna get to be able to do something like that.
The friends we made along the way, right?
Yeah.
What is
months? Oh, my fault.
What is your go-to pizza order at Maxie's?
Buffalo chicken.
Cheesesteak.
Right now, I will say the Maxie's chicken bites are one of my favorite things right now. They are unbelievably good. It's like 20 like little chicken nuggets, like pretty tiny pieces, like chicken bites, but they are very good quantity. They're only $8 on Mondays, and it is my go-to food for Maxie's right now.
Oh, yeah. We went on Sunday, and you think we're like, oh, you're only gonna get like one bottle. You're gonna get 1 bottle of water, and then I saw a thing of wings pass by me. I was like, $1 wings. Gotta get a thing of wings.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to Maxie's this week to watch the NFL draft for bottles of water and wings?
We're
staying home, right?
We always do the draft at home. We get a big potluck of food and just watch from our apartment. I mean, we'll go before the draft to knock off our day, but we will not be at Maxie's. Got to check off the day.
This is all in the name of love for a T-shirt.
Yes, and a group picture on the wall.
I've spent probably gonna spend close to like $300.
I have spent way too much.
How do your parents feel about this?
They don't need to know.
My parents are into it. My dad thinks it's hilarious.
Every single time I talk to my mother and my dad, they're like, "Have you gone yet?" And I'm like, "No, but I'm going right now." Actually.
My dad's fully bought in on it.
I told my father about how some people just go in and just like sign their name and then leave, and he's like, "That's not how you do it." It's like you have to like.
So Tony Mack is in support of this.
Oh yeah.
How about your mom?
My mom finds it amusing, honestly.
Okay.
Like she finds it real fun.
Oh, what about the to close us out here, Colin? Talk about the most important verbal commitment of the week.
A big commitment for Temple sports media program. My younger brother Carter Schofield will be attending Temple starting in the fall as a sports media major. Don't think he's going to go the same journalism route as me. He's not a writer. He's been very insistent he doesn't like to write when I brought it up to him. But I think he will make his way into WHIP and Owl Sports Update for sure. He wants to go into that TV version of it, like either anchor or sideline report.
With such venom that TV, whatever.
I'm a writer, but he
he'll have to learn how to write. He's got to know that. Yeah,
I'll make sure he gets that. Yeah, he got to get at least one Temple News byline.
Yep.
Just to keep the lineage going. I'll make sure he gets one byline in him. But yeah, he'll be here in the fall.
Those unofficial visits I heard made a difference.
The unofficial visit he took in I guess that would have been October, I think.
Yeah.
The unofficial visit in October made I think all the difference in the world. And in the end, he was waiting on NC State and got waitlisted at NC State, and that kind of sealed the deal that he was going to come here. So he said he doesn't like the cold, so I'm going to tell him to get ready for the winter because it gets real cold in the winter.
Yeah, I mean, it can't really help him with that unless we put a dome around the campus, but I don't see that happening. No. So no, we'll get him ready for the cold. Can't be much different than Annapolis, right?
Not terribly different. It's just going to be the wind. I think the wind is way different here than Annapolis, but. Oh, he's
you don't
excited.
Have any wind coming off the water?
Chesapeake? We're not right near the water. It's not. We get wind, but man, it is different wind here.
Yeah.
But he's excited. I'm excited for him. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what he does here.
Yeah, I am too. So congratulations to him. Thanks to all of you for submitting mailbag questions, including our new friend Big Dog, Mr. Cheddar. Again, just the best screen name. I may just repeat this once an hour for the rest of the day, just to keep myself happy and healthy here. So we'll have a lot more for you guys next week. Again, the Portal News is going to continue to be streaming in. So thanks again to all of you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.